Hello to everybody who honestly needs to think about the things they complain about, because while everything is relative, you do have to remember that sometimes things in life are not so bad. It's Beautiful Anonymous, 1 hour, one phone call, no names, no holds barred.
I'd rather go one-on-one. I think it'll be more fun, and I'll get to know you, and you'll get to know me.
Hi everybody, it's Chris. If you are not into intros, I'll tell you what, this week's intro explains a lot, so you might want to buckle up and just do it. But if you really don't love an intro, I forgot to time it explicitly, but I think if you skip about 5 or 6 minutes, you'll be towards the end of it. Thanks so much. It might actually be a little longer. Sorry about that. Anyway, enjoy it. Hi everybody, my name's Chris Gethard. Welcome to another episode of Beautiful Anonymous. Very first thing I'm going to tell you is that this episode is one big, massive trigger warning, okay? The things we get into here are not pleasant. We just finished recording the phone call. You can hear that I'm a little shell-shocked. I'm struggling to figure out how to explain it. I will say the caller herself is so charming, really remarkable in so many ways, but describes some things that have happened in her life that you would not wish on your worst enemy. Real horror movie level stuff, and this is not a joke. And even outside of that, you're going to hear about the timeline of the caller's life and hear about some other things that can be grim, that can be tough, stretches of homelessness, stretches of handling massive responsibilities without a partner, a lot of things that would be the defining aspect of most phone calls on this show, that are the incidental details before we even get to the big thing. And the big thing is shocking, and it is scary, and it could happen to any family, and we need to massively invest in our young people, their mental health, and all the systems that help make sure people's mental health doesn't lead to really bad, horrible situations. So if that's not a warning that lets you know that if you're not somebody looking to handle something heavy, this episode is one you should hold off on for now. I don't know what is. That being said, I will tell you, I think we just finished recording it, but I truly think this is one of my favorite episodes of Beautiful Anonymous that we have ever done. I am 8 years in on this project. We're almost 500 episodes in, and I still find myself completely blown away by the strength of people. This is a caller who I think you will also note, and this is one of the things I'm so proud of, if I'm being honest. I've mentioned it before, that there's a lot of true crime podcasts out there, and in my opinion, so many of them just come down to this formula. Hey, listen to a horrible thing that happened to a woman. End of research, end of nuance, end of thought, end of grace. The number one exception to this is one of my absolute favorite podcasts in the world, Criminal, which is beyond setting the bar. So much love to Phoebe Judge and Lauren Spohr and the team at Criminal. I'm a huge fan of your show, and I'm not talking about you. So many other true crime podcasts, I think, go, let's sensationalize it and forget that there's people here. Now, the nature of Beautiful Anonymous being what it is, I will tell you that I'm proud that we always put people first. The premise of this show is, hey, there's a person on the phone. A person on the phone. Not a person who only exists in the context of things that they've been through, but an actual well-rounded human being. And you're going to hear from a caller who's been through some stuff that, like I said, nightmarish, actual nightmarish scenarios have unfolded. When you also hear her strength, her ability to laugh, even to things in direct relation to the incidents I'm referring to, when you hear about the actual reality of forgiveness, not in a way that's cliche, not in a way that's simple, not in a way that it was without its caveats, but that's so real. These are the things that I think Beautiful Anonymous does that no other show opens the opportunity for. We're not going to produce this and boil it down just to the shocking parts, because I think some of the parts that outweigh the shock are the parts where you also go, wow, this woman is one of the most resilient, strong people I've ever heard speak. And I'm left so blown away by that. I'll also put this out here, because this show is commercial enterprise and entertainment at the end of the day. I don't love plugging the fact that we have extra audio behind a paywall, other episodes. That feels like a more comfortable thing to do, but you can sign up at beautifulanonymous.com. And when I tell you that in the main feed, you are going to hear one of the most legitimately scary and sad and horrific calls we've ever had. And behind the paywall, there are things that will touch on that, but that the final question also leads to one of the funniest stories I think we've ever heard on the show. I sit there and I go, that's important to me. And I'm not trying to pat myself or on the back too hard, because honestly, I've gone along for the ride on this show. But if it has taught me anything, it's that very often the people who have been through the most pain are also the ones that have the most infectious laughs. The people who can in great detail tell you the stories about the grimmest moments of their life almost gain a superpower where they can also tell you with the same level of detail about the silliest and funniest moments of their life. And that's real life too. That's how people survive. That's how laughter is catharsis and a coping mechanism, which is something I wholeheartedly believe as well. As you can see, this call blew my mind. Thank you for supporting our Beautiful Anonymous project for the past 8 years. It is calls exactly like this one that make me so proud of it and proud of the community that surrounds it. If you want more with this caller, sign up for beautifulanonymous.com. Not to give me $5, but because the caller has so many more things to say. And again, it's not even actually the last question. It's when she leaves the question for the next week's caller. That's how late in the game this very funny story comes out. And it puts a button on things that's so funny. Anyway, really brace yourself. This call is one of those ones that's going to change your day and maybe even your week and maybe even your brain chemistry. It's happened a few times in the history of the show, and I think this one is one of them.
Thank you for calling Beautiful Anonymous. A beeping noise will indicate when you are on the show with the host.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I've been running around a little bit today doing some Christmas shopping, which is that weird combination of pleasant and panic-inducing. But I'm good. There's drones flying over my house every night. There's mysterious drones that no one knows where they come from over New Jersey, and they literally go over my house every night. This is true. That's concerning, but I'm trying not to freak out. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I've heard them popping up a couple other places around the country as well.
I've heard the same.
Crazy. I'm good. My morning has been pretty mellow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to talk to you today.
I'm glad to talk to you as well. We got snow and we weren't supposed to get snow, so that was a surprise.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I always like when that happens because it's beautiful, but also a big old pain in the ass.
I completely agree. I don't like driving in the snow, but sitting in my house with my cup of coffee and sewing and just relaxing all morning has been nice.
Nice. Love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love that.
It's got a break between, I start a new job next week, and I've previously had, been working 4 jobs.
4?
And so, 4, yeah.
And you're going down to
I'm
1?
excited to going down to 1. Yeah. It's nice not to be pulled in all kinds of different directions.
Yeah. And I'm really, I think it's very interesting to hear that you switched from 4 to a totally new one instead of one of the 4 coming to fill all the space.
Right. Yeah. It's, all of the 4. So like I was doing, vacation rental cleaning, and that's where I listen to the most of your podcasts is, you know, in the houses by myself and, yelling at everybody or talking back to people in the houses by myself. And then I work at the local community college working in the darkroom for photography. And so school just got out for Christmas break, and then the vacation rentals, they're not working that much. So both of those kind of dried out. I've been a photographer for 18 years, and I don't enjoy marketing. So that's not drying up, just I don't market. So I don't get that much business for that. Mm-hmm. And then I'm a substitute teacher, and they say that there's not that many substitutes, but there's a ton in my area. So in the past 2 months, I've only had 2 jobs. So
that's a real grind.
I need a consistent income.
Yeah, that's a real grind you just described.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
And what are you switching to that's replacing all of those things?
I'm excited because I'm going to something where I got my degree to help others. It's kind of like a housing advocate. So helping people that are homeless or not currently living in a quote unquote normal traditional house to help them access grants to get into homes or apartments or quote unquote a normal traditional place that they want to live.
Now I'm about to make a joke. There's a lot of truth in it. I say this with nothing but respect for what you just told me. I sit here and I go, I just hope people are listening with their ears wide open. Because you just described a life where you were like, I finally got a job where I can just focus on one job. I get to take a breath and relax. I get to chill a little bit. And the area in which you get to quote unquote take a breath and relax is helping people without homes get off the streets and advocating for them, which is a brutal and emotional, a very necessary job, but an emotionally draining experience. To sit here and go, this is what we're doing to working people in America right now. That you're like, I finally get to chill out by entering the notoriously laid back world of helping homeless people fight through a system of red tape and judgment. That's your version of getting to chill.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is I was a recipient of that because me and my son and my cat were living in a 19-foot RV with no heat.
Wow.
And so, that was partially my doing. It was one of those things where I was living across the country, someplace I didn't want to live. And I was like, I need to go home. And I bought this RV, and people are like, okay, so what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to drive it home. And they asked, well, like, how far have you driven this RV? And I'm like, to the gas station. They're like, you've never driven an RV farther than the gas station, and you're going to drive it cross country? And sure enough, yep, I drove it cross country. And then I got here, and I was happy to be home. And we lived in the RV for, I think it was 9 months. And I found a place, and then somebody hooked me up with this program, and they helped take care of the red tape. And I want to help. And I've been on that side, and I can totally empathize with people.
That's so fascinating. How old was your son during this 9-month stretch?
Oh, he was, I think he was probably 13.
So you were living in an RV with no heat and a 13-year-old.
Yeah. And he says now, still looking back, that it was the best time because he's like, it was so simple, Mom. Like, everything that we had was all right here. You were right there, either crocheting or sewing or, doing something. And I was right here on this tiny little TV playing video games, and we were all right here.
Now I'm able to, it's your story, but you sit here and go, you're living in an area of the country, you realize you need to get home. You sort of throw a Hail Mary pass with the RV. The RV creates some fond memories for your son, but from the adult perspective, you look back and go, there were some concerning aspects of it. Able to piece together some dots there of you wound up someplace where you felt a little stranded. Does not sound like your son's dad was in this RV. So, you're able to piece together some dots here. But I do have to ask you, there is this, people think of what it means to not have a house. And the first images that come to mind, right, especially for people who haven't been around it, are like from movies where you see New York City back in the 80s and it's somebody sitting under a pile of blankets on a sidewalk, or somebody warming their hands over a barrel with fire coming out of it.
Right.
Yeah. Or, the most visible, having lived in New York City for 16 years of my life, the most visible people who don't have homes are oftentimes ones who are also mentally ill, who are loud, who are getting on places like subway cars for warmth, but whether it's due to their appearance or behavior really stand out. But you existed in this place that is not that. And there is this middle ground that I would guess that there are very smart people out there trying to get the facts and figures on this exact class of people that exists in a state between having a house and not having a house that I bet is almost impossible to track. And I wonder what your experience was as far as how you intersected with the rest of society around you at that time, if you identified with the idea of being unhoused or homeless, if you worried about it being that, or I'm just so fascinated to hear about this idea of kind of existing between the two worlds, because my guess is that it's happening exponentially more all over America right now than anyone knows about or wants to admit.
I completely agree. And especially in my area right now, the last figure that I saw was there was over 1,800 homeless people in my small area that I live. And that's, children, that's adults. That's, there was a story on the news of a 2-parent households. Both of the parents were working full time, and their landlords just kept raising the rent more than they can afford. And so they are living in an RV in the woods about a mile outside of town with their kids. And both of them have full-time jobs, and it's just, housing is crazy. And part of me was like, I chose to do this. I chose to get the RV. I chose to leave this safe house that I have because I just felt that I needed to go home. The problem is I was across the country from home because I ran away because of an incident that happened. And so I got myself all the way over there, and I was like, okay, I think I'm healed enough and I want to go home. I need to go home. And that was my choice, was to pack up the RV and to drive over here and figure out, because things have happened so much in my life that I'm pretty resourceful. I'm pretty, like I can try to figure out a way out of things, or I don't get stuck often. I'm like, okay, anything's open. Like I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. I'm hopefully pretty humble and can ask for help when I need it. And, but then I can also work my butt off and do what I'm able to do. So I think there's a lot of the homeless community that they're there not necessarily by choice. They're there because they were forced there. And I feel like it was different in a little way for me because I did make the choice. Does that make sense?
It does. And it's intriguing to hear that. It's intriguing. But it also is reflective of the fact that there's such a wide range of what it means to not have secure housing, and the stigmatization of it tends to make people want to keep that story behind closed doors so often. Or the idea, like you said, for you to indicate this was a necessary choice to get myself and my son from one place to another, both a physical place, and it also sounds like a place of safety or security and just a need to get home. So you make that choice and go, we will figure it out along the way. This is and makes you realize for you, this was a choice, and it was calculated and it was temporary. But I bet that for every story like yours, there's another story of someone who said this is a choice and it's temporary, and then one or two things go wrong with the plan and it becomes extended, if not permanent. And I'm sure there's stories like that all the time.
I completely agree.
What was Tell
Go
me
ahead.
about that. No.
What was the incident?
Well, share whatever you want to share, but I'm also interested to know, how close did the experience stick to your game plan? Like, did you think it was going to be 9 months? Did you know that when you could get to a certain area that you identified as home, that there would be people to help you adjust to a new life and get to permanent housing, whatever it might be? Like, how much of a Hail Mary pass was it, and how did it work out?
So I was across the country, and I wasn't happy. I struggled with depression before, and the depression that I had there was different. Like, the depression that I have here at home is like, I have 1 or 2 low days, and I'm like, just hold on through it, and then I'm okay. But the depression that I had over there was like I was buried alive, and it was just a constant grayness, and it never lifted, and it lasted for months. And I'm like, I got to get out of here. Like, I got to fix this. And then I'm like, what do I want to do? I'm like, okay, I want to go home, and then what? And then I decided, okay, I want to go back to school, and I want to get my degree in psychology so I could figure out kind of like what happened to me. So there was an incident that happened, and basically the big thing was why, like, what the hell happened, and trying to figure out how I dealt with it, because I felt like I lost my mind after it, and figuring out what happened in my brain with my brain chemistry after that incident, and what possibly led up to the incident in the first place, because it was crazy. It was like an episode of Dateline. I've got 2 kids. They're like 9 years apart. My oldest son and I were super close because I was young when I had him, and it was my first time being a mom and learning everything. And we were super, super close. And I've pretty much almost always been a single mom. And he got into the teenage years, and I'm like, oh goodness, everybody's like, oh, as I get older, it'll get easier. And it didn't get any easier. And then he got this girlfriend, and things just started getting crazy. And I got this like sick feeling in my stomach. And every time, like, I'm like, trying to lead him in a different direction. Like, this probably isn't the best, relationship, or, with teenagers, when you try to tell them, you probably shouldn't date this person, then they're going to go closer to that person.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty much happened. And at that one point, me and my younger son were kind of scared. Like, my older son just became incredibly volatile. He just would have outbursts. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And so his dad was deployed overseas, and he's like, send him, to my wife. And as soon as I get home, then just he can stay with me. And I'm like, okay. So I sent him to Kansas with his stepmom, which is probably a really bad idea because there was absolutely no supervision there. And then he's like, Mom, I want to come home. I miss you. And I'm like, okay, if that's what you want to do. And he came home, and he was super, super different. And within a week of him being home, he had tried to kill me. And it was absolutely crazy.
Your oldest son tried to kill you?
Yeah. It was like, I dropped him off at school that morning. I was like, love you, sweetheart. He's like, love you too, Mom. He went in the school, came back out of the school, never checked into school. I went to work, and little did I know, he walked home and prepared the house for when I got home to kill me.
What does that mean, prepared the house? First of all, this is grim.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask the questions that come to mind, and anything where you're like,
you are good.
I can't even go there. Just flag it. Just flag it for me. But when you say he prepared the house, do you mean almost like Dexter, like plastic and stuff everywhere?
Almost. So he blocked all the doorways to any of the rooms. So in case I tried to go in and shut the door, I wouldn't be able to shut the door. He hid all of any kind of weapon, like the meat tenderizer and all the knives and anything that I could use as a weapon. He hid all of them. I still don't know why, but his brother and him for Christmas had got me a baseball bat, and they had like sprayed it with glitter to make it girly because I like girly things. But he had taken that baseball bat and spray painted it purple and then wrapped it in plastic. And then he and he unplugged the phone because we had a house phone at the time as well. So he unplugged the phone from the wall. He blocked the back door with like the cat tree so I couldn't go out the back door. Like, he prepared the house. And the messed up part was his girlfriend had walked him through how to set everything up over the phone, but she made sure she had an alibi.
When you go, and the messed up part was, I almost interjected and said, wait, we haven't gotten into it yet? Like him blocking every exit and hiding and then when you say, oh no, so this was like a lover's, and I imagine that he was so mad you removed him to Kansas that he had been plotting this with her. Is this the implication?
Well, that's the thing is, like, he wanted to go to Kansas. But then somehow it got construed that I forced him to go. And I'm like, whoa. No. I had a counselor come into the home to talk with the three of us before he had left. Cause I'm like, I don't know what to do. Cause he's just getting so volatile. And the counselor like sat down and like, what are our options? And so, he was like, yeah, like, I think that might be the best thing. And so he was there for like a month. And it was the plan. I guess they joked around about it at first, and then it became the plan. And the messed up part was right when he got home, because within a week is when he attacked me. And there was an issue over at her house. And so he got a phone call from her, please save her. And she was having a lot of trouble. She was like putting cigarettes out on herself and saying her mom did it. And she tried to jump out of the car while they were going down the highway because her mom said that she didn't have enough money to buy her a prom dress so they could go to prom. And so I showed up over there and I'm like, no, I'm done with this affecting my household. Like that's not okay. And when I showed up, her mom was on her knees in front of 2 police officers, begging them, please help me. She's a sick little girl. I need help. Please, somebody help me. Somebody's going to wind up dead. And they were just standing there with their arms crossed, like, you know, like she's begging for help. And then a little bit later, the girlfriend comes up to me and I'm like, no, like, you guys can't see each other anymore. This is very dysfunctional. You need to get help. And she's like, well, then I'm just going to go kill myself. And I turned around and looked at the cops and I said, she just threatened suicide. And so they both went into the house to take her in for mental health. And then they came out like not even a couple minutes later and came up to me angry at me for lying to them. I don't know what she told them, but she swirled everything around.
This is one of the most terrifying stories anyone's ever told me.
It was crazy. It's weird to think that this was my life. Like this was real and it wasn't a dream and it wasn't, yeah.
So
he,
you come home that day from work.
Mm-hmm.
At what point do you enter your house and realize, wait, things aren't where they're supposed to be? Something really strange is happening.
Okay. Are you ready for it?
I can't believe that I have to cut to ads in the middle of this episode. Capitalism is what it is. Let's do it. Hello, ladies and germs, boys and girls. The Grinch is back again to ruin your Christmas season with Tis the Grinch Holiday Podcast. After last year, he's learned a thing or two about hosting, and he's ready to rant against Christmas cheer and roast his celebrity guests like chestnuts on an open fire. You can listen with the whole family as guest stars like John Hamm, Brittany Broski, and Danny DeVito try to persuade the mean old Grinch that there's a lot to love about the insufferable holiday season. And that's not all. Somebody stole all the children of Whoville's letters to Santa, and everybody thinks the Grinch is responsible. It's a real Whoville whodunit. Can Cindy Lou and Max help clear the Grinch's name? Grab your hot cocoa, grab your cozy slippers, find out. Follow Tis the Grinch Holiday Podcast on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. Unlock weekly Christmas mystery bonus content and listen to every episode ad-free by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Hi, everybody. You have heard in recent months that a really great service called Delete Me is a sponsor on our show. And I just have to, first of all, shout to the hilltops. They have made me feel safe. They have made me feel like my family is safer. You've heard me shouting to the moon about it, that there's a lot of your data is online. There's these data brokers. They're selling your info. If you look into the type of info, it is remarkable that it's even legal for that info to be disseminated publicly. We're talking about your parents' address. We're talking about every address you've ever lived at. Some of them get their hands on your social security number. Some of them are places where people go to try to buy info that can compromise your banking safety. There's all sorts of stuff out there. I've dealt with it because I exist very publicly. I've had a few situations where I felt like privacy was really important and being threatened. And man, Delete Me is the service that I realized was keeping me and my family safe. You can hear it in my voice. This is way off book. There's a whole script I'm supposed to be reading. I'm not reading it right now. I'm telling you that very, very personally, on a personal level, Delete Me is a service that I have watched consistently outpace the service provided by other similar services. I've watched them be the ones that set the bar. I do also want to tell you, though, that I believe in Delete Me so much that I also passed on Delete Me subscriptions as a gift. And that's something I want to also put out there for you to think about is there a better gift than telling somebody, hey, this is going to help keep you feeling comfortable, keep you feeling safe? I personally passed Delete Me on to a, sadly, without speaking too much to it in a way that might poke the bear, stick my finger right in the beehive. I will tell you that I was dealing with a situation where I felt like privacy was very important. There were two friends of mine who I know were dealing with the same exact situation in relation to the same people. And I was able to pass on Delete Me subscriptions to some of these other people to say, hey, my information is way more locked down because of Delete Me. And I was able to explain the service to them and say, hey, if you want your address scrubbed from the internet, and I know you have kids, Delete Me can help. If you want to obscure someone's ability to maybe zero in on where you're living, Delete Me can help. If you want the peace of mind that comes with knowing that there's people out there working on a very regular basis to make sure that you're safe, Delete Me can help. The other person, one friend of mine, his family, and another person who was a young woman who I know had been in some situations where she felt unsafe and had dealt with actual stalkers. And I said, hey, this will make it harder for those people, you know? Was able to pass it on. It's a meaningful thing to pass on to somebody. There's a lot of times in life where it's appropriate to get someone a gift that's, hey, here's a book I think you might like reading. Here's something to hang on your wall that'll remind you of me. But then also you can think in the ways that aren't physical objects sometimes and go, how about the gift of privacy, the gift of safety, the gift of knowing your information is protected? Again, none of that's on script. All of that comes from my heart because I honestly think Delete Me is doing such a great job. I personally recommend Delete Me. I use it myself. It's a subscription service that removes your personal info from hundreds of data brokers that are out there. They're trying to profit off of your data. It's a commodity to them. The people buying this data, they might be harassing you. They might be out there trying to execute identity theft, pretend to be you. They might be trying to flood your phone with spam calls. You can protect your privacy with Delete Me. They send you regular personalized privacy reports. That part's amazing. These personalized reports, they'll let you know, oh, hey, we removed it a few months ago from this site. Guess what? Your info wound up back on that site. We removed it again. It's so impressive when you get those reports like that. It's why I'm so thrilled to let you know, Delete Me is not just a one-time service. They are always working for you. They are monitoring and removing the personal information you don't want on the internet constantly. They are developing their system to stay ahead of the systems of these people with bad intentions. It's really, really impressive and cool. Take control of your data. Keep your private life private. Sign up for Delete Me, now at a special discount for our listeners and their loved ones. Today, get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/beautiful and use the promo code beautiful at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is go to joindeleteme.com/beautiful. Enter code beautiful at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/beautiful. The code is beautiful. Okay, thank you to all the sponsors that allow us to bring stories like this one to the world. Really means a lot. Now, let's get back to the phone call.
Are you ready for it?
Probably not.
I opened the door, right? I know. So possible like spiritual things, or I don't know what happened, and it could be because I had too many knocks to the head, but I walked in the door and I smelled spray paint, and I thought that he had killed himself because they had faked a breakup the night before. And so I held him in my arms while he fake cried for 45 minutes, which still is pretty triggering to me. And so I thought he had killed himself. And so I'm running around the house screaming his name. And I noticed things were moved, but I'm like, and then I got upstairs so that when you go in, you can either go downstairs or upstairs. So I went immediately downstairs to his bedroom, ran around the house. I was like, where is he? Where is he? He wasn't, anywhere down there. And so I ran upstairs, and I'm looking around upstairs, and I turn around and I see him in the bathroom, like hiding in the bathroom. And I just fall to my knees because I'm so thankful that he's alive. And I start crying, and I feel something, and he had taken my cell phone out of my back pocket and thrown it across the room. And then I turn around and look at him, and he sprayed me in the face with my mace. And then he proceeded to start hitting me in the head with my own baseball bat that they got me for Christmas.
It is rare at this point in hosting the show that I don't know what to say, but I mean, that's one of the most horrifying things I've ever heard. I'm so sorry.
Thank you. It was pretty crazy. At this point, I wasn't fighting back because this is my baby. This is my child. Like, what is going on? I'm in a bad dream. Like, and afterwards I looked it up to try to figure out, like research to find other stories. And at the time of my attack, I think I was one of two moms that had ever survived an attack from their child. And the only reason that I survived is because I was down and I was cowering. And I swear right in my ear, I could almost feel the breath, but there was a very stern female voice in my ear that said, "He is going to kill you." I don't know if it was my mom's spirit, God, whatever it was, snapped me out of it, and I started fighting back.
Now, you've already been maced. You've already been hit with a bat. I imagine that you can barely
in the head
breathe,
several
can
times.
barely see. You've been hit in the head. You're disoriented. So what does fighting back mean?
Standing up. And, I got the baseball bat pinned between my legs, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, I'm calling his name, and I'm like, what? And then I started screaming, and then I tried to run out the door and realized that it was blocked. And then I tried to grab the phone and realized it was unplugged. And then I got the baseball bat pinned between my legs again. And with my right hand, I am plugging the phone back in, and I've got the front of his shirt in my left hand. And I'm just like making eye contact. Like, what are you doing? I'm your mom. I love you. What are you doing? I love you. And like, he's just kind of, it was almost like he wasn't in there at first. And then he starts like coming back. It was weird. Like he start in his eyes. I could see him start to come back. And I get 911 on the phone, and I swear they were the most nonchalant. Like, 911, what's your emergency? And I'm like, I need help. Please help. And they took a deep breath, and they're like, what's your address? And at that time, my son pulls on the baseball bat between my legs, and I drop the phone, and it hangs up with 911. And so I pulled super, super hard on the bat and got it out of his hands and raised it against him and told him to sit his butt on the floor and put his palms on the floor. And he sat down and listened. And then he started looking around like he didn't know where he was. And then he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I'm calling 911 back. Second time I call, guys, same thing. What's your emergency? What's your phone number? I'm like, he tried to kill me. I need you to come, please. And then they got a little bit of, spark in them, recited all the information. My son's on the floor going, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Oh my God. Oh my God. And then it's just kind of a blur. The police break the door down. And then I'm rushed to the hospital.
Can I ask?
And then, yeah.
I don't want to interrupt at all, but I'm one thought that's on my mind is either on this day or in this stretch of his life, were there drugs involved in your son's life? Was that a factor?
As far as I know, no, there was no drugs.
Ooh, I almost was hoping you would say yeah. To hear that he went to this other mental place.
Yeah.
So
that's why I went back to school for psychology. I'm like, what the hell happened?
So
if he was my sweet little boy, like, yeah.
Oh my goodness. So the police do come. They get you out of there. I imagine
they arrest him.
He's arrested.
Yep.
You get you to the
He's
hospital.
Arrested.
What's the damage at the hospital?
The damage at the hospital is I have a concussion.
That is about as
Not a
lucky as it
major
could have
one.
gone, huh?
Thank you. I know. And I'm like, between that voice that I heard in my ear, like there was some angels or somebody was watching out for me, because I'm like, there's no way. Like, and then the thing is like when the police came to the thing, they were like, okay, we're going to take you to the hospital. I'm like, I got to get my other son from school. Like, I got to get him from school. And so the cops went and picked him up from school. And his first thought was, my brother did something. He was in 3rd grade at the time.
And he knew.
And so he did. And they brought him to the hospital, and the cop sat down with me at the hospital to, get like a statement. And the first thing the cop says to me is, how do you discipline your children? And I said, we talk about things like, like if we're having an issue. And he goes, well, has there been any issues lately? And I'm like, I haven't been happy with his relationship. And he goes, well, what's going on with this relationship? And I said, and he goes, well, what's his girlfriend's name? And I gave her name, and you can see it recognizes on the cop's face. He was one of the cops at her house the week before. Mm-hmm. He left the room immediately, ran to have somebody go arrest her. And they did immediately. They went right to her house. She was acting weird, and I had no idea because my phone had been thrown across the room, but her mom had been calling me nonstop because she felt something was wrong because her daughter was acting funny.
Now,
and at that time, I had no idea that they had it planned.
And at what point do you? So your older son's been arrested. There must be these amazing conflicted emotions of like, I want my son out of jail, but also he tried to kill me. So do you go see him in jail? Do you want him out of jail? Do you want him to stay in there?
See, that was the hard part.
Was that the hard part?
I didn't know at that time. Right.
Was that the hard part? I didn't realize everything up until now had been so easy.
It was so breezy. It was because there was then I found out that it was a plan and that they had a list, and I was the first person on the list.
What?
And that his stepmom in Kansas was on the list because apparently she made him get off the phone with his girlfriend to do the dishes. And his girlfriend's mom was also on the list.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So that starts to make everything.
I'm like, what the hell? Like, what? And then my big thing is like, why? Like, what? I wanted to talk to him. I wanted to say, what the hell happened? What were you thinking? What's going on? And it was just, he was in juvenile. Both of them were in juvenile hall and kept getting in trouble because they wouldn't listen to the guards to not talk to each other. There was a no contact order between the two of them, and they would throw a fit that they couldn't talk to each other, and just like really mentally ill stuff. And I'm like, what? And at this time, like I was jumping from place to place to place because I couldn't go back into that house, and I couldn't work. Like I was in such a huge state of PTSD and shock, and I still had to, like, when they released me from the hospital, I had no wallet, no shoes, no phone, no car. And they just opened up the emergency room and let me out with my son. And I had no idea how I was supposed to get home. I couldn't call anybody because everything's saved in my phone. And I'm just standing there. And I just lost. And thankfully, a police officer came up and she goes, do you need a ride? And I'm like, thank you. And so they took me back to my house.
Remind me of the age of your sons at this point when it happened.
My oldest son was 17. And my youngest son was in 3rd grade. So I think he was 8, 9.
I have to imagine there's a wide range of emotions you feel towards your oldest son. I have to imagine that there's so much pain at times. I mean, massive confusion and guilt. There must be so much rage.
Mm-hmm. There was. I've gone through so much therapy, and I ended up getting my bachelor's in psychology to just try to figure things out. A lot of that has helped. I do think he has some kind of undiagnosed mental disorder that is hereditary on his father's side, because there's things that I've recognized with his sisters on his dad's side, and his dad and his grandpa and his grandma. Like his great grandma used to walk around and talk to the walls. And they were like, oh, she just went on a trip in the 70s and she never came back. And as I sit there and I look at the DNA line, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's it. So we did talk. He spent almost 7 years in jail.
7 years in jail.
And we did talk. I did go to visit him several times. And the last time we spoke, I told him I needed an apology. And he started yelling and cussing at me that he was doing time and how long did he have to pay. And it triggered me, and I hung up on him, and we haven't spoke since.
And he's out of prison now?
He is out of jail. He got held in juvenile through the extent of his incarceration. And he actually is somewhere in this area that I'm at.
Does that scare you?
But I don't know where. It did when I first moved back. But like I said, I've had a lot of therapy, and I'm not the same person I was, and I'm a lot stronger mentally. I've done self-defense classes, and I make sure that I'm always prepared. Just in general, I think from him or from any other person that is, wanting to do anybody harm. It's, they talk about how women walk around with our keys between our fingers, and I've done that since I was a teenager, and this doesn't change that. I still do that. And just always aware of my surroundings. And yeah, I'm not scared anymore.
That's miraculous.
And I hope he's okay. I hope he's healing. I hope he's able to work through what he did mentally, because I still, like I said, he was still my little boy. I had a friend tell me once, and I got it, but she's like, she goes, out of both of your boys, he's not the one that I would have thought would have done anything. She goes, and not that I would imagine anybody going through this, but my youngest one, he's the feisty one. He's the class clown and the goofball. And my older one, he was the super sensitive one. Like, he found a rodent that had got hit by a car, and it wasn't fully passed away. And he sang to it for an hour before it passed away, and then he buried it. He was always thinking of ways that we could volunteer, and, I'd have extra fabric, and he's like, oh, we can make blankets for the Alzheimer's unit at the senior center. Or that's why it was so weird. But yeah, I hope he heals. I hope he's okay.
I'm sure you think about this a lot, but let's say someday you get a phone call or someone who is in touch with him sits you down and goes, he's changed, he's worked hard, he's gotten a diagnosis, he's medicated, he'd like to see you.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've thought about if that's even a viable possibility at this point in your life. We're going to pause it right there. I'm really proud that we get to bring you stories like this. The reason we do so is because we have some advertisers that have had our back really hard. Go ahead, listen to the ads, support these people who support stories like this. We'll be right back. Quince. My friends at Quince, who make me feel so confident, who make me feel so good. I will tell you, every once in a while, I still do an acting audition. I'm not scrambling as hard as I used to get acting gigs. I'm trying to slow down later in life, but every once in a while I still do one. And just yesterday I recorded one. I said, I need to look good for this. Threw on my sweater from Quince. I got a gray sweater. I got a charcoal colored sweater, and they both are by far the most complimented items in my entire wardrobe. Every time I wear these sweaters, people point out that I look good, and it is not a coincidence that both of them come from Quince. So I don't know if you got people in your life that you're looking for gifts for right now. That can be an overwhelming process. You want to make sure people are going to get these gifts that they want and that they feel great about. And I'm telling you, the perfect spot for timeless gifts, made from premium materials, by the way, check out Quince. Quince lets you treat your loved ones and yourself to true quality at an affordable price. Okay, these sweaters are no joke. If you... And I can speak out here too. I know many of our listeners are women. If you got a guy in your life and you want them to just look good with something they can throw on easy, I'm telling you, the way Hallie reacts to me in these sweaters, this is a gift to give the guy. You want to go, hey, be my eye candy, throw on your Quince sweater. And there's all kinds of stuff too. There's super soft fleece sweatpants, major upgrade to whatever you're lounging in right now. The packable puffer jackets are perfect for anybody who travels a lot and who's traveling right now for the holidays. No matter what you're looking for, all Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. They do that by partnering directly with top factories. They cut out the cost of the middleman, and they pass those savings on to you. Quince is on the nice list. They only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices, premium fabrics and finishes for that luxury feel in every piece. And again, I'm telling you, when I need to feel confident, I wear clothes from Quince. When I need to look good for an audition, I'm wearing my sweaters from Quince. When I go on dates with my wife, it is sweaters from Quince. This is not a joke. This is my real experience. Gift luxury this holiday season without the luxury price tag. Go to quince.com/beautiful for 365-day returns plus free shipping on your order. That's QUINCE.com/beautiful. Get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/beautiful. Thanks again to all of our sponsors. Now let's finish off the phone call. I'm sure you've thought about if that's even a viable possibility at this point in your life.
I have. Yeah. There would definitely be precautions. He would not need to know where I lived. It would need to be like, a public place with other people around. But I would be open to that because I do believe that people can change. And I do feel like since, drugs and alcohol were not involved, that it was definitely some mental break. And I've learned so much about adolescence and teenage years. And I kind of giggle because I have a warped sense of humor now. Every time there's a news story about something that a 17-year-old did, like there was a girl, I don't remember where, she climbed down a chimney because she locked herself out of the house and she got stuck and she was 17. And there's certain things that like a memory gap or just a lapse in judgment right around that 15, 16, 17 age.
Even for you to be able to say that, for you to sit here and go, oh, the brain of a 16, 17-year-old, I sit here, I go, I can't even imagine being able to stay that calm and discuss it. I'm also left wondering, do you have a sense of what happened to the girlfriend he was tangled up with throughout all this?
So he got 7 years. She got 18 months. I actually saw her that first summer that I moved back here. Triggered me big time. Because I was at a festival and I look over and she's coming out of a building. She didn't see me, but I recognized her immediately. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just need to keep track of her. Like, I need to see where she's going. I need to, like, you know, keep safe and stuff. But then there was another part of my brain that I was like, she looks good. Like, because before they both kind of looked mentally ill a little bit. Like they were not up on hygiene. They were not wearing clean clothes. They were not brushing their hair. They were not, like, they definitely looked like there was something going on. And when I saw her, she looked good. She looked clean. She looked okay. There was a piece to her that I hadn't seen previously. And somewhere inside of me, that made me happy.
I think I can speak on behalf of almost everybody listening to this. I know myself well enough to know I'm never getting to the point where I can say she looked good and it made me happy and I felt good about seeing her. Most of us aren't getting to that place. You're really remarkable.
No. You've also much therapy.
I imagine. And I'll also say this. You've also been so fair this whole time in the sense of saying he was your sweet little boy. He did get tangled up with this person. Yeah. The police had been called on her. Her mom was so concerned. You flagged that she said things about taking her own life that felt manipulative and threatening, but you still have never demonized her and have never crossed a threshold into saying, and she made my little boy turn into this. You've never done that. And that's
not in this phone call. However, for several years I did do that.
I bet. I mean, therapy will teach you that as well, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got an amazing therapist that would hold me on my shit, and she would turn around and she'd be like, She wasn't there. She didn't have the bat. She didn't have the mace. She didn't do it. He did that. He stood there. He did it. And it was like, yeah, you're right. And it was, and she had her own stuff, you know. There's so many things that we go through, each person goes through in their life that shapes us to who we are. And I don't know what happened to her when she was little. I don't know, you know, if it was mental illness, if it was something that happened to her when she was younger, if it was her environment, if not saying that any of that excuses any of it, but we all are who we are because of what we've gone through.
It is shocking to realize, you know, you think about the state of mental illness and how we handle it, and we've made massive amounts of progress, but you still sit here and go, sometimes it slips right through the cracks. And sometimes, and I can speak from experience on this, when you are really suffering, your brain doesn't tell you to look for healing. Your brain tells you to look for the validation of the mental illness itself. It's really insidious. And, you know, you do sit here, and for you to both admit, oh no, there were a few years there where, believe me, I was pointing fingers, but to get to a point of graciousness and peace where you can say effectively, like, unfortunately, your son might have a family lineage of some mental illness that you can recognize now, and that whatever was going on with her and whatever it was driven by, sometimes when people slip through the cracks or when treatment is not available or catching things or stigmatized, I don't want to get on a soapbox about my own stuff, but you sit here, you go, well, and then what happens if people who have their own mental health issues meet and validate each other and create an echo chamber and create a reality that's not rooted in fact and become the heroes of a sick little story that is disjointed and driven by that illness.
Yeah.
You sit there and go, man, I cannot believe you were the villain in whatever their twisted story was. And that is
Mm-hmm.
terrifying.
Exactly. It is. It's because they had to have come up with some kind of story. But
There's a lot
I
of late
recognize
nights
when
on
you
the
say
phone.
that they,
There's
yeah,
a lot of late nights on the phone
Yes.
saying something that creates a reality where this seems like the option. You know?
I completely agree with you. Yeah. And for them to validate each other was a huge thing. I go
Yeah.
through, and for years I was like, what did I do? Like, how did I mess up? Like, you know, I was taking all the blame. Like, you know, maybe if I had done this differently, or maybe if I had done this differently, or maybe if I hadn't have, you know, sold that house and moved, and he hadn't have switched schools, and, you know, like, I went through years of what did I do? Because that was the thing, is like, I had to have done something.
Can I ask you
yeah.
a really difficult question?
Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned that there were people in your life, obviously people who you have trust in, if they're even allowed to have this conversation, who expressed, but wait, your older son was this like sweet, emotional, big-hearted kid, and your younger son was, you know, I forget exactly how you phrased it, but the one who,
He's like a class clown. Yeah.
yeah, the wise ass remark class clown guy.
Mm-hmm.
You're a single mom. This
Mm-hmm.
happens with your older son. How do you make sure this doesn't affect your relationship with and your ability to fully trust your younger son? Because I have to imagine that through no fault of his own, there's a very valid world in which you go, how do I ever feel safe under a roof with anyone again? Even this 8, 9,
Right.
10-year-old kid at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. And it was, you know, because that was I must have done something. And, you know, then I did it with both of them. So, you know, what now? And, it was a while, and it was hard, but I had to also reassure him, because he, at a young age, was like, that's my brother. Like, would I grow up to do that? You know, he was scared. And I reassured him, you know, that everybody makes their own choices, and we don't know why he did that. But that doesn't mean that my youngest one's going to grow up to do that. And I think the more that I reassured him, that it also reassured me. But it was. And like I said, so much therapy and going back to school helped, because that gave me the tools and resources to do the research that I needed to do, to pick my professors' brains, and to realize that, you know, this is just crazy, just absolutely crazy. And it's not a common thing. And it's not, you know, this doesn't happen to people, but it happened to me, and it was my reality. And I lost my mind for a while.
I'm sure the most earned and justified loss of mind I have perhaps ever heard of.
I did. Yeah. Yeah. And I started having major anxiety attacks, and they were weird, because it wasn't like a normal panic attack where you would, like, you know, see somebody hyperventilate or anything. It was just, I'd be sitting there watching a movie with my son and not realizing that the violence on X-Men was affecting me, until I looked down and checked my Fitbit, and my heart rate was at 180 beats. And I was like, oh, okay, we're not watching this. And I would, like, read books before I go to bed, and had to realize I couldn't read any books that had any kind of violence in it, and just being very aware of my body and things that I could handle and things that I couldn't handle. And then testing every once in a while to see if I could maybe handle a little bit more. And nope, not there yet. Okay, we're going to go back down here a little bit.
I mean, you are remarkable in your ability to even take a deep breath and get scientific about that. How many years ago did this happen?
This happened 8 years ago. 9 years ago? wait a minute, hold on.
I love that you forgot. That's growth right there.
Right? Yeah. And it is. I'm like, wait a minute, what day was it? It was May something. And, another strange part of it is I think he poisoned me a couple of days before he attacked me.
Say what?
Yeah, because I got super, 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 like really, really sick, and I couldn't stay awake, and I just kept nodding out.
You think he was trying to like, soften you up?
I think he would like try to poison me to kill me.
Oh, like it wasn't real. Like they had a prior murder attempt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so I ended up going to the hospital, and they gave me a shot of what is it? Like Benadryl.
Like an antihistamine?
There you go. Yeah, they gave me an antihistamine shot. And I'm like, okay. They're like, oh, you seem to be having an allergic reaction to something. And it was weird because I kept nodding out, and I would look around, and my younger son was doing things, and he was checking on me. But my older son didn't seem to care, and he was on his phone the whole time.
Oh,
and so
goodness.
now, after the attack and looking back, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
If I'm doing my math right, this means your younger son is about to graduate high school?
That is correct. And it was weird when he was 17. He just turned 18. And I was completely honest with him, and I went through therapy, and I'm like, I am triggered with my youngest son being 17 now. And I told my youngest son, and we have like I said, a really warped sense of humor. Because I'm like, neither one of my boys are like my favorite boys. And then I'm like, you're my favorite son. And he's like, only because I didn't try to kill you. And I'm like, nah, and then like he turned 18, and I said, congratulations, you made it through your 17th year. And he's like, yep, that was a hard one.
Look at that.
But
is he planning on college?
Like I said, yeah, we're getting ready to fill out his FAFSA forms and everything else. And because I work at the college, he went with me down to the darkroom and saw everything and was really enjoying that. He doesn't necessarily know what he wants to do, and he's still my wisecracker. I got a call from the teacher yesterday. So
you have handed him the most effective college admittance essay of all time. You understand that, right?
Yeah, probably.
He's just like, so check this out.
Right?
Brother tried to kill my mom. Mom justifiably had a few years of really freaking out. Wound up homeless, living in an unheated RV for a while. Then watched my mom hustle, grind, claw her way back to not just a place of sanity, but a place of strength. Wound up watching her work 4 different jobs to support us because, oh, by the way, she's doing this with not that much support. Watched her cleaning rental properties, working in a darkroom, doing at any given point 2 other jobs, all just to pay the bills. So anyway, how much financial aid do I get? Biatch!
Damn, when I hear you say it like that.
Just tell him keep it under the word limit, and this kid's getting a full ride somewhere.
Yeah.
Deserves it. I have to say, we got a few minutes left, and I know I'm managing to find a couple moments of levity, but I mean, as you said, humor is coping. But I do have to point out something about you that is wildly impressive, which is you sit here and go, my son had a girlfriend. They both had some form of mental illness. It hit a point where my son tried to kill me. And instead of laying down and letting that wreck the rest of your life or your other son's life, you go, let me go and get a degree in psychology to learn everything I can about mental illness, where it comes from, the different angles of attack it has, current treatments. Let me do that. You experience a form of homelessness, and you are now going, I'm consolidating this life where I've been scrambling, and now I'm about to move forward and work in advocacy for people without homes. And I sit there and I go, I hope you hear it from enough people in your life, although I'm sure there are many days where you just want people to go, just let me go to the bagel store and get a bagel like everything else. And the days where this doesn't get brought up or pop into your head are probably victories every time. But I do hope you have enough people in your life that sit here and go, many people do not survive this, both physically, let alone in the aftermath of it moving forward. Many people, their other kid is not somebody who can make a joke about it and is not a kid who graduates high school. Many people, this wrecks their life, this wrecks their other child's life, and it creates a cycle of despair that lasts probably for a few generations and ends poorly in so many ways. And I've only known you for an hour, and I don't even know your name, but I can tell you that I know you keep giving so much credit to your therapist, and I think that's beautiful, and I'm positive it's true, and so much love to all the therapists in the world. But also, you are a hero for giving your younger son any resemblance of normality in his life. And your strength is remarkable. And I've heard it 10 times in the course of this hour, and I imagine that if we talked for another hour, I'd hear another 100. And I hope you do get credit on that, and that people in your life point that out to you. And I can already tell you're somebody who wants to go, well, therapists help me a lot, and my younger son helped me a lot. But also, none of them took a bat to the head from someone they loved and then had to unravel the fact that this was a plot, and maybe not even the first time they tried to kill you. It is only your strength that even puts those people in a position to be able to help. Because most people in life go through this, they are not savable after that. They are not helpable after that. They are broken fundamentally forever. And it is shocking and beautiful and inspiring to hear that you are not.
Thank you. Part of the reason I wanted to call is because aside from my son, it's never talked about. Nobody ever talks to me about my older son, and they all pretend it doesn't happen. It never happened, and I just have one kid. And part of the reason I did have to go across the country is because it was all over the news, and everybody knew me because I had a successful photography business, and I was getting accosted at the pharmacy, in the library, in the grocery store, and people were reaching out and grabbing my arms to tell me how glad they were that I was alive. And I'm like, I was so triggered. And so I did. I ran across the country, and I took a couple years to heal. And then I was like, I want to come home. But now it's like people have forgotten, and people just, like, I don't get to talk about my older son a lot because people just treat me like I only have one son. Which is hard, especially since his birthday's coming up.
Our time's up. We're going to end momentarily, but even to hear that,
yes,
you sit there and you go, man, you're still his mom. You're still a mom.
I am.
Don't take that away either. Like,
yeah,
you're still a mom. You have all these instincts, emotional ones, biological ones. Don't erase this from existence.
Yeah. And I hope he's okay.
Strange and horrible thing. And I'm not going to say I hope that you two manage to resolve it someday.
If that's what's supposed to happen.
And I will say on my end, if that is something that you find yourself wanting to happen, only in that case do I hope it happens. I hope you wind up with the resolution that you need, and I hope you wind up with a pathway through this story that's positive for you and productive for you and healthy for you.
Thank you. Me too.
I got to say,
Yes.
our time is up. This was, a stellar call. Thank you for having it. We do have a paywall. People can sign up at beautifulanonymous.com. I feel silly plugging it. What we do is we ask people 5 more questions from a random list. One of the infamous ones is about people pooping their pants, and Andrea did type in our shared document, I can't believe you might have to ask this person about shitting her pants after this. That's what we're now headed towards.
Perfect.
Not perfect. If that question comes up, I will be so ashamed and so humiliated.
Oh.
But we're going to say goodbye to everybody in the free feed right now. I'm a little choked up and a little rattled, but also super, super inspired by you. And I thank you for sharing all that vulnerable stuff.
Thank you.
Caller, thank you so much again for sharing so much of yourself, for teaching the rest of us about strength, resilience, recovery, forgiveness, grace, humility, how to be there for the people you love, even when it feels impossible for you. A lot of things that I'm sitting here thinking about right now. Thank you to the High Priestess, Andrea Quinn, for producing the show. Thank you to Shellshag for our theme music. punchup.live/Chris Geth if you want to know about me, including upcoming dates, which are mostly in New York right now. But if you want to get tickets to those shows, punchup.live/Chris Gethard. We have a voicemail line. It's 973-306-4676. We have an Instagram. It's Beautiful Anonymous Pod. And the Facebook discussion group is called Beautiful Anonymous, the community. It's a really lovely collection of people talking about episodes in laid-back fashion. Join today. This week on Beautiful Anonymous Plus, here's some of what you'll get from the 5 questions. Am I allowed to tell you the very dark joke that popped into my head, even though it's wildly inappropriate?
Yes.
I was a little scared that when I said, what would you change about the school/education system, that you were going to go, well, they better make sure the kids fucking sign in. Sorry that you managed to have an answer that was pro-teacher, hopeful, spoke to something else, and I immediately brought it back to the worst thing that's ever happened.
You are good.
My bad. Sorry about that.
No problem. You're good.
I have to. I'm glad that you are so down to talk about it. I can't not be awkward about it sometimes. What can you do?
I understand, yeah.
Yes, you're honestly the best. This is wild that you're like, no, you're good. And then you're just laughing, and I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Most people don't get there. Don't forget to sign up for Beautiful Anonymous Plus at beautifulanonymous.com.